Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. December the 9th is our date. Pete Belcastro with you here at KMED. Joe's off today. I'm Principal Broker at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. Through over 400 times we sat with many of you, and one thing we always say, we want our listeners to be good real estate consumers. And I definitely say many of you definitely are. Welcome to the show today here on December the 9th. We sit here, second week in December. Trevor Boucher is a real estate broker with John L. Scott and has been on our show before. Nice to see you. How are you doing? First of all, happy holidays to you. And how are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing good, Pete. Happy holidays to you, and thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. So here we are. My goodness, December the 9th. Christmas is almost around the corner here, you think. And the real estate market, the statistics that we're going to share with some people here in a little bit, it's still a robust market, isn't it, Trevor?
You know, we're having a little bit of a seasonal slowdown, like we always do, but overall, I'd say it's still very busy. I'm blessed with being busy, so can't complain. Happy to be.
Yeah, well, you want to be busy, and when you say busy, more buyers, more sellers, kind of tell just people what do you mean by busy? Define that a little bit more for us.
A little bit of both. Got quite a few listings, new construction, but also working with some new buyers, of course, coming up from California.
And still seeing. So we're seeing some of that. We know they're coming. We know out of state they make up 40% of sales, and so we know that they're continuing to come. Is this part of the fire-related things? Do you see any of that?
Yeah. I think that there's some people in the Bay Area, especially North Bay Area, that would like to relocate here. Hopefully it's safer here as far as wildfires go and burning down the town. It's really terrible what happened in Santa Rosa.
In Southern California, again, as this show is played this week, we're seeing the same kinds of things. And boy, those wildfires are terribly destructive, as we know, and it certainly creates a ripple effect in terms of our market, in terms of skilled labor in our market, people leaving, etc. It's a big ripple.
Right. Anytime there's a natural disaster or civil unrest in California, it seems to create an influx of buyers here in Southern Oregon from California. Yeah,
well, that's what keeps the market going, as we know. Also here in the house today with us is Jim Bunton, Jim from Bunton Construction. So, I'm sorry, Terry Bunton. Terry has been doing this a long time in terms of building homes and has weathered a lot of different ups and downs in the economy of new construction, I'm sure. So, Terry, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you here.
It's great to meet you, Pete.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's great. So you've seen a lot, I think, in new construction. You've been doing this since the 80s, you said. Mm-hmm. So you've weathered some interesting real estate times, haven't you?
We've seen our ups and downs, that's for sure.
Tell us what happened to you in 2006, 7, and 8, right in there. Did you survive that? Just tell us, because we've all gone through that.
Well, we made it through.
You did?
It was rather turbulent, but persistency and some experience, and we made it.
You made it. Well, congratulations, because a lot of people didn't and had to move and all sorts of things, as we know. So those who survived now face some good times, right? Is that a good way to describe it?
We're seeing some pretty robust times right now. Construction is up, and everybody's busy, and some very busy. Yeah. So we're very blessed with that. We've been real busy now for a couple years, and things don't look to be changing anytime soon.
And Trevor tells me he was looking up some statistics in new construction statistics in our state. And we always try to I guess for some reason we always compare what happened in 2005, 2006 before, the Great Recession hit and stuff with new construction. We've heard all sorts of things. We know that valuations have certainly come back compared to when they went off the cliff in 2005 and 6. What about housing starts? Because that's always an interesting stat.
It is very interesting. And it's funny because I was talking with Terry this morning, and I was under the impression that we had about the same amount of construction going on now as we did in 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And of course, he's like, no way, we're not there yet. So I looked it up, and by golly, he was right. In January of 2005, there was 22,000 Oregon housing permits pulled. And
in 1 month.
Right. And then in January of 15, only 10,000. So we're about halfway there as far as the amount of construction going on. And that's single-family residence new construction permits pulled.
So there was the pent-up demand, Terry, that we've heard so much about It's true, wasn't it? I mean, the pent-up demand because it went off the cliff.
Right.
We're not back to where we were.
No.
Right?
No. As far as the amount of construction being done, we're not back to where we were.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when you look at the stats from the SOMLS, and there were 83 new homes that were completed in the 3-month period prior to this. But that's still not anywhere near enough. And you both shake your heads, so I'm assuming that's true, right?
I think it is. I think that the amount of construction being done certainly is not keeping up with demand. What's your take on that, Terry?
Well, I think that we definitely need to get through our urban land use approval process so that we can have some more land. And we're getting real close on that. That's been going on now for a number of years, and many of you may know about that. But we should have more land open up here in the next few years.
Do you see right now what's out there available? Is it shrinking, the inventory of available lots? Are the developments that are out there, are they filling up? And so we're at that point to where we're now going to have a shortage of them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what's going on. If you don't have any land to build on as a contractor, you're not going to be building any homes in our valley. You've got to have that land, and there's no land out there right now that's being sold to independent contractors looking for a lot to build on.
It's just kind of larger parcels by large developers.
That's correct.
And so that's what takes place. Is that what is taking place in East Medford, where we're seeing 40 homes come on in the 3-month period? Is that what's mostly going on there? Or tell us what that industry is like right now.
Well, I can tell you the two largest builders in East Medford right now is obviously Mahar Homes. They average about 40 to 45 homes a year. And then Mahar Brothers, they're doing about 25 homes a year. So between the Summerfield subdivision and the Stonegate subdivision, just a little bit south, that's where they're building. And I know that they're not selling those lots to independent contractors. They're building them all out themselves as complete build packages.
Mm-hmm. That affects then what independent guys or smaller contractors can do. So what do you do then, Terry? Tell what you. I know there's lots of lots out there. There's still lots of lands. I see those come on the MLS all the time, right? So tell us what would be a step that someone would have to do if they're interested in doing that, in building a place now.
Well, you've asked a few questions there. I'll go back to where you started there. And what we did is we used to develop land. I started in probably 86 developing land and building homes for sale. And that worked really well up until about 2007.
Okay.
And then with the crash and everything, like we talked about a few moments ago, we got out with our clothes on that, and then we had to basically reinvent ourselves through our process of building. For all that time, we met a lot of people, built a lot of homes, and so we just became general contractors, and that's what we're doing now. So we build many things, not just houses. And with the housing industry the way it is now, there's still a few little pockets of land that can be developed, but there just isn't that many. Our developments now are 11 lots to 15 lots, whereas they used to be 40, 50 lots at a time.
Bigger at a time.
Yeah.
Now tell me what you're developing some new homes, right? And I know Trevor's done that in the past since you've been in the show. I know in West Medford area, right?
Correct, yeah. Off of Thomas Road in Southwest Medford. Okay. It's about 3.5 miles from Jacksonville. Okay. It's the subdivision is called Anjou View. Terry's the builder out there, so they're good quality homes. And it's a subdivision. It's 17 homes total. That includes the existing home that was completely remodeled. Okay. And we currently have 5 homes listed there.
Five out of the 17 eventually, correct, is what you're saying?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Yep. 3 of them have already been started, and 2 of them we're waiting for permits back from the city. We'll get started on those.
Now, when you do something like that, I'm always curious as to how you actually go about developing those. Is that in a city limit, or is it in a rural spot?
It's in city limits.
It's in the city limits, so you have city services for them and everything like that.
Correct, and there was quite a bit of expense
to get them.
Right.
yeah, I believe that.
Bringing the water to the subdivision, utilities to the subdivision, and then repairing the road that had to be torn up to bring the utilities to the subdivision,
All right.
there's a lot of cost that developers incur.
And how large are the lots today that you're doing in general around the valley? Are they still shrinking in size, or how are you be able to recoup? Because you got to recoup your money. So where are those lot sizes doing?
I would say they're averaging between 0.14 up to 0.17 is in this particular subdivision. That seems to be the norm. I think in the Summerfield subdivision, in East Medford, and in Stonegate, they're a little bit bigger. I would say the average lot is like a 0.19 or maybe a 0.20 acre lot.
Just a little bit bigger.
Right.
Yeah. And so how big, Terry, are you building today in, say, these types of new developments? What type of houses are you building today? Are they double, are they single levels? Tell me what the demand is that you're seeing and what you're building out there.
Well, right now we're building homes from about 1,400 square feet on up to about 3,200 square feet.
14 to 32.
But obviously not in the same development. These over here in the southwest Medford are roughly 1,400 to 1,700 square feet. And we've been doing quite a bit of work out in the Talon area as well, and those homes are roughly about the same.
The same size.
Yeah.
Is the size that's the demand that people are seeking, that size house, or is it more of the affordability question that's dictating the size of the house?
I would have to say I think it's more of the affordability.
Okay.
Yeah, but then we move over to the east side, and we've got homes over on the east side that are anywhere from about 2,100 square feet up to 3,000.
Okay.
And that's in two different developments.
So those are pretty good sizes. That's not overly large or overly cumbersome, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
And as you're putting into these things, we hear lots of Brad Bennington from the Home Builders has been in here, and other folks talk about the future of building homes in terms of their energy efficiency. And talking with you are putting a lot of amenities. You got to have some amenities into these places, right? Because you're asking a pretty good price for them, right?
Well, we're trying to build homes that are much more energy efficient. We just finished a rather large apartment project, and on that apartment project, we put in mini split systems. Some people call them ductless. We did some hot water heaters that are actually a heat pump. All the homes anymore have LEDs, and these apartments had LEDs, and I was really surprised this summer when I saw that first energy bill on a 1,300 square foot apartment unit in July, and it was pretty warm back in July, if you remember.
Yeah. It was hot.
It was hot, and that energy bill in that 1,300 square foot unit was only $40. So I was pleasantly surprised. It worked out rather well.
So you're putting this type of amenity into these new homes, the energy efficient appliances more so. What about smart homes? I hear that you hear that all the time now. You're bombarded with, my home's going to be a smart home, or I'm going to build a smart home. Do you get demand for that, Terry? Trevor, do you hear people talk about this? Or I'm so curious, just because are we being we're being led by industry tell us what we want to do rather than the demand for it. So tell us what's your experience there.
I haven't had a whole lot of demand for the smart home. We'll be doing one up at Innsbrook Ridge this year, but other than that, I haven't had a lot of demand for the smart home part of it. But people are really becoming wise to the energy efficiency.
So when you say you're going to build one in Innsbrook Ridge, what does that mean? What are you going to do to it to make it smart? Do you put a brain in the attic and?
Well, that's kind of what happens.
Do you wire it a certain way, or tell us what do you do?
The majority of the controls in the home can be controlled either through Wi-Fi or through Bluetooth on any device. You get off your plane, you were gone for a week, and you want your home warm when you get there, so you turn everything on before you hop in your car and drive home, and it's all good to go. You get ready to pull into the driveway, and the lights come on.
But it's not a big demand.
No.
What do you think in new construction? What is the biggest demand, you think, Trevor, in new home construction that you see with your clients?
Affordability.
So it comes back to that again.
We argue about it all the time.
You do? Okay. And what's affordability in a new home that you're building today? If you East Medford, West Medford, what are those prices ranging? I'm just going to give me a range
I'd say West Medford. The market dictates today that the lower end of new construction in West Medford, I think you're going to be around $275,000.
So they're still below $300,000 in a new home there. Okay,
right, correct.
All
yes.
right. And $275 is a very popular price, as you know, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So are you having difficulty selling those once they go on the market, or because new construction is rare, and some people it's a perfect fit for them?
No. It's still a hot price band. The 200 to 300 things are moving quite a bit in that price band. So yeah, they're selling quickly.
Mm-hmm. And over here on the east side, when you're talking about more expensive homes in Innsbruck Ridge, for example, what are those generally kind of ranging for today?
Well, there's new construction in Summerfield subdivision. Those have gone up in price. Those are starting now about $500,000.
Because the prices have gone up. I mean, there's no question about that, as we've seen on our stats. Hey, we're with Trevor Boucher from John L. Scott and Terry Button from Button Construction on the Real Estate Show today. We've got a break coming up. We've got lots more to share with you. We're coming right back to KMED right after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. December the 9th is our date. Pete Belcastro with you here in KMED. Hope you're having a terrific holiday weekend, whatever you're going to go out and do. Next week here on the show, Esther Auerbach will be back, and we'll talk about 1031 exchanges for investors. A lot of you have a great interest in that, and Esther will be back with that. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows, by the way, at realestateShowOregon.com. They're all there for you. Today on the show, Trevor Boucher is a real estate broker with John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, and Terry Button from Button Construction are with us talking, well, the market, what's going on here in December, and new construction. Terry's been building homes in the Rogue Valley for a long time and has certainly weathered the storms and has survived and continues on. One of the things, though, Terry, that was concerning when I read it somewhere that the fires, we had the earthquake, the floods in Houston and Florida, now back more fires in California. That labor, that skilled labor is moving to these places because the jobs are there, and they're paying more than they do here. And the other part that I've been hearing is that building materials are going to go up, and they're going to be scarcer, and that it's going to add costs and delays to projects in our own valley. The ripple effect we talked about. Is that what you're seeing? Tell us what that story is, or what's going on in terms of what you're hearing.
Well, Pete, all of that is true. We unfortunately this year we've had a lot of disasters, as everybody well knows. I don't need to point those out, but one of the things that happened here recently was that fire down there in Santa Rosa, and that burnt down a insulation company, Johns Manfield, and I just you bring that up. I just talked to one of my insulation contractors today. Next year, we're expecting he's at a meeting right now in Florida. They're all discussing this. There's going to be 4 price increases in insulation. And if we don't let our insulation contractor know 2 months in advance what we've got coming up, we might not even have the insulation. The insulation's going all over the place.
It's bad. It's scarcity of the product, and price increases all equals delays and things like that. That's going to have a huge effect, isn't it, Trevor, on new construction, everything? It's a ripple effect here.
Yeah. It's already hard enough to get the skilled labor to get the job done. Now you're starting to deal with supply chains and materials, getting them in a timely manner.
And what do you do? I mean, so we're going to see just shortages. I mean, can you finish your projects? Are you going to have enough to do this? Or are you feeling it already, or is it anticipated in 2018?
This has been a very difficult year to get projects completed because of the lack of skilled people wanting to work. And, when we went through the crash that we went through, we lost a lot of very qualified contractors and tradesmen, and they're just not interested in getting back and joining the forces. And so it's been rather difficult. You've got to plan as best as you can and get them scheduled as far out in advance as you can. And even with that, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's getting very difficult. The general contractor is the one that dictates the schedule, and this year it's been very much the opposite of that. The subs are dictating the schedule.
Well, see, and that's going to have effect on pricing, Trevor Boucher, isn't this? I mean, this is going to have a big effect on pricing, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so. Just, price increases in materials, scarcity of materials. scarcity of skilled labor. So that obviously that means that price of skilled labor is going to go up along with the materials. For a lot of people that could put new construction out of their price range, which might make existing construction a more attractive option.
The existing homes you're talking about.
Correct, existing homes.
Because of that. See, I don't think people thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense because they're going to be more of them, and especially if the prices are going to go up because of that. And you have availability of land issues, so those are going up.
That's correct.
It's just this whole real estate business, which is so supply and demand oriented, is so interesting how it works. And new construction is kind of always at the it's at the top of the news kinds of cycles, isn't it? Because it affects so much below it that, as we saw here, when we didn't do any construction in our valley for 5 years. So, what about pricing right now? What are you seeing, Trevor, that is on the horizon out there because of the things that Terry's been telling us, the things that we've been talking about today?
Well, I have a lot of buyers and sellers, clients of ours, that are saying, we're starting to see a lot of price reductions. We think that the market's cooling off. There's still a lot of transactions being done, but you've got a lot of sellers who are wanting to test the market, and they're overpricing their homes. They're sitting on the market. They're not selling. They still want to sell, so they start the price reduction game. So there's a lot of price reductions going on, and I don't think that that's really an indication that the market's cooling off at this point. It's just more pushback on seller pricing.
That the seller prices are too high, is right. The initial prices. And we've certainly seen that, and I call it seller-induced pricing. Sometimes when the seller says, I want this much for it, and you say, well, it's probably not going to sell for that, but we'll start there, I guess, kind of thing. So you're seeing that now, and I think I agree with you. I think we're going to see more of that because the statistics are saying there's more inventory, right? And so if there's more inventory, then that's going to make balance between buyer and seller a little better.
Right. There is more inventory. The usual tipping point as far as being a buyer's market or a seller's market is 6 months supply.
Yeah.
So we're still, overall, we're hanging around about 2.5 months supply, which is a pretty strong seller's market still. But once we get to 6 months supply, then it kind of becomes a buyer's market.
We've been telling people for months, the available inventory, the supply of inventory has been in some price categories less than a month, 2 or 3 months. And those have increased in November. They've increased a little bit. So that's probably, I think, a good thing because it kind of slows things down because it was crazy with people getting multiple offers and people pitting against each other and kind of coming up with all sorts of weird things to try to get a place. And so the cooling off is definitely, I think, better for everybody. Okay.
That's very true. And in that type of market where you've got multiple offer situation, you've got to have a good agent that's going to have a strategy to help you in those type of situations.
Yeah.
But as far as months of supply, the hottest price band has been 150 to 250. And September, we had less than a month's supply, 0.79 months supply.
Okay.
And October, we had a 0.88 month supply, of course, less than a month again. And then November, we've got an increase in supply. We're all the way up to 1.13 months supply.
So it has increased, but not much. There's still great demand. The interesting part of all those statistics is that the higher end homes are languishing a little bit longer. There's more of them out there, and they are not moving as fast as these other prices are. But you would expect that in a market like this, right?
Yeah, it's the upper end market in this valley has always been tough and takes a little bit longer to sell.
Yeah, it always has. Do you know what's interesting too is the median price? We talk about that a lot, and I know in new construction the median price I think in Jackson County is like $320,000, which is in the range that you're talking about, Terry, in terms of what you're building them for. A little bit less, a little bit, that's the median. So a little bit higher, a little bit less than that. So that's a pretty interesting stat there. What's interesting is right now is that Josephine County, Trevor, is increasing at a higher value than Jackson County. In those statistics now, Josephine County in a year had a median price increase of over 13%, which is double digits, which is really not a good thing. I mean, double-digit increases compared to 7% in Jackson County. Josephine County remains that place, that gem that people come to, and obviously they're having a pretty hectic and pretty robust real estate market there. Well,
I think they lag behind us a little bit, and I think they're still playing catch up. So I'm really not too surprised by that stat. It
doesn't surprise me either, but to hear that and to see that is always always you never know where we don't know where anything comes from. You go here and there, and it changes every month. Nothing stays the same for very long. Right?
No.
Right? Yeah,
Change is constant.
Yeah, and we'll see. So you think people, the way this market is moving right now, that it's going to continue through the winter? I know we have a little bit of a slump right now. No, I don't even want to call it a slump. It's just
it's still slowdown.
I mean, there's still tons of lock boxes being opened. Buyers in winter are pretty serious buyers too. You know that when they go around, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think since you realtors are slowing down, maybe you guys should come out and help us in construction.
Yeah, you would not probably want Trevor or I around hammers and nails and helping you there. We got one more section to go in the real estate show. We're with Trevor Boucher and Terry Button. We're coming right back to KMED after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. December the 9th is our date. Pete Belcastro with you here. Don't forget, next week we're back with you. Got Esther Ara back talking about 1031 exchanges for investors. That'll be next Saturday. By the way, in January, KMED switching the times around. Our preceding show, The Rogue Gardener, will be from 10 to noon, and we'll be moving from 11 to noon beginning in January of next year. Just a little FYI here. We talked about pending sales in November, just a couple, November of last year to this year. Pending sales were up 20%. New listings, Trevor, we're talking about that. Trevor Boucher, they're up 35% from a year ago, which tells you that that is the reason we're seeing kind of this movement is going on, right?
Right. There's more inventory for sure, year over year.
More inventory. And the Housing Affordability Index, which is something that, you only want to talk about when it's affordable and not when it's not affordable. But Jackson County's Housing Affordability Index has actually increased more affordability, which is really surprising to me considering you have increased median prices and pressure on new construction. And Terry Button was talking about building apartments. There's such a need for that. Rental housing is just, it's awful what is going on for people in housing here. Alternative housing, we simply don't have them. We talk about new construction, like you're talking about today, which is wonderful, but there's so many other housing problems that we have here that are not being addressed.
Well, the affordability index, the fact that it's still good here in Jackson County, I think a lot of that is we're lucky enough to have really good interest rates still. And
we are getting some additional inventory out there, so that's true. I want you to give you a chance, Trevor. We talk about new construction, and there's a lot of it going on, obviously, here in the Rogue Valley, as Terry's pointed out, as you guys have said. But why does someone, when you talk with clients and they say, do I want to buy an existing house or should I build something? And people go through that debate, and I can imagine what they must say. But when you get involved with something like that, what do you say to people, Trevor?
Pete, it's a no-brainer. It's the new house smell.
Just the new house. That's
the new house
the thing.
Smell. Yeah, it's like new car smell. It's the same thing. So really, there's a number of reasons why new construction is very nice. You have the ability to customize. You can pick out paint colors, interior, exterior. You can pick out flooring. You can pick out your granite, your cabinets, all those things to really customize it and make it feel unique to you.
Mm-hmm. Now, what else is on? What else would I? Why else would I want to buy a house? I build a house.
Well, as Terry was saying, materials for new construction are set to go up this coming year. So right now, prices on new construction are still competitive.
Well, if they're selling for $275,000 in the range that you're talking about in West Medford, I bet a year from now those are not going to be that price because of the materials and the kinds of things in the future. A new house you're going to build next year is going to cost more. Isn't that right, Terry? I mean, is that accurate now?
That is correct, Pete. And there's also a lot of new regulations that's coming out through the state. That's going to be requirements, and the cities and counties and everybody else are always charging more SDC charges, which is system development charges, and that's for the impact on the systems that are currently out there. So,
and I would think in new construction, one of the advantages today is that, to what Terry also brought up earlier with us, was the energy efficiency of them. I mean, some of the new things that you're putting in, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's very correct.
Absolutely. Heating, cooling systems are more efficient. The building materials there's better insulation, better insulated windows. And then you kind of touched on smart homes. It's easy to buy like a Nest thermostat that's programmable, that learns your living habits and actually becomes more efficient and will also reduce your utility bills.
Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing in reducing utility bills, being less of a environmental footprint on these homes that you're going to see. We've taught people before that California and Washington State, to the north and south of us, are changing their rules regarding construction. So it's going to be interesting, Terry, in the next few years to see what Oregon is, how much Oregon is going to follow suit in terms of these new homes and their energy efficiencies and things like that. I don't know where it's going. It's just crazy. There's so much out there, and there's all these moving parts, and there's no one thing that can change much of it. It's got to be a bunch of things changing something. I don't know if
that's correct. I mean, it's going to get very difficult to get yourself down to a zero net on using energy. There's going to have to be a lot of solar systems put in out there. I at the moment, I don't know what else could be done that we're not already doing.
Surprising, though, but you say you don't really talk to people who are building that. Those types of things are not really at the top of their list of things and amenities in a new home, which is some of that.
You mean like the smart home and stuff like that?
Yeah, the smart homes are net zeros or net zero energies or something. It's not really a big thing yet.
Well, we've got one home coming up this next year that's going to be out in Gold Hill that the lady has got a power pole probably about, 100 yards away from her new home site, and she's off the grid.
On and off the grid.
She's off the grid. She's not hooking up to it.
I certainly see more people doing that in rural areas. I want to be off the grid. A lot of people want that. And you can do that, obviously, it's there.
Some of the solar systems are really, really efficient.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there. Trevor, what do you think coming up here over the winter? We've weathered this. What is your do you look in the crystal ball for the next few months? Tell me what you're seeing.
Well, I think the general public here in Southern Oregon, that they're starting to realize that the market's good, and there are some people that have been kind of on the fence whether to sell or not, and they're going to be jumping in. So I think that we're going to continue to see more inventory.
If we see more inventory, that'll solve several problems. One of them of which, when people who are like in my category where I want to move up or down, to a new place, a smaller place, there hasn't been any places to go to. And that has been why some people, I think many people, have probably held back and say, well, I have no place to go, so I can't put my place on the market yet. That's still a problem.
You do see that. People are hesitant to put their home on the market until they've got another home in contract first.
I wonder if it's easier to move up and find something, or is it easier to move down and find something smaller?
Definitely up.
Up is easier. Yeah, smaller is just more competition, lesser price, and there's just more everything there.
Exactly. You got first-time home buyers, investors. Everybody wants the lower bracket homes.
Yeah. And Terry Button, what do you think the next winter? You going to be busy all winter here building, or do you take the time off?
Well, it'd be nice to take time off this year. We've been busy for quite a while, but no, winter it just takes a little while longer. I mean, we get rained out, you get out there slugging it out in the mud and stuff like that, but we just keep going right through the winter. All the subs are out there. They just start dressing warmer, and towards spring they'll start layering their clothes and take them off as they can. But we don't slow down in the winter. Not right now. Anyway.
Not right now, because you're that backed up, and the demand for new housing.
That's correct.
Obviously, the statistics bear that out. Even though it's not like it was in 2005.
Thank God.
Yeah, having 89 seems to be a pretty healthy number for a 3-month period in our valley. Josephine County lags behind in that with new construction, but it's still we're going to see more of it because the demand, people want to come and live in our valley, don't they?
It's a healthy market here.
It's a good market. Trevor Boucher, thank you. Visit with you soon. You can find him at Trevor Boucher at johnlscott.com. Terry Button, nice to have you. At Terry Button Pete. Construction. You can contact Terry. Google you, Terry, and we'll get you. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show this week. Have a great week, everybody. God bless you all. We'll talk to you next Saturday right back here on KMED.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.